Could you tell us how your family, or a portion of your family, ended up in Lansing, and first ended up in the United States, and then came to Lansing?
I have no correspondence or documents that tell me why they came, but we are certain because of the church activities at the time, and also the government was very intrusive, and the Crimean War was building, and my great-grandfather and grandfather had 3 little boys, and I'm sure he didn't want them to be in the military. We do have evidence that this family were rather free thinkers. In fact, there was a whole organization called Free Thinkers in Europe at that time. And I think that's what initiated their travel to America. Elizabeth Catherine had brothers in Ann Arbor. There was this strong community of Germans, well established in Ann Arbor in 1854. 1854 was a remarkable year for out-migration from Wurtemberg. If you look at the authors of migrations, many of them say that 1854 was a high water mark for the loss of Germans to other parts of the world. And of course, many came to America. Well, from Ann Arbor, they came to land on Hagedorn Road. I suppose they farmed enough to provide their own food, as most people did at that time. And I've heard that my grandfather Christian worked in the brickyard, which was between Lansing and East Lansing. You know, Lansing's laid out in a bowl, on swampland, and there was a brickyard there. But they moved to the what we call the homestead at the corner of M100 and US 16, which is the old Grand River Road from Detroit to the lake. And they bought 90 acres there. It had a workshop and an orchard and all the buildings that they would need to provide for their family. Well, my father was, like many of his brothers, was a builder, and he built houses in Grand Ledge. So in 1910, he took his widowed father and his widowed sister, who had lived with him at the homestead, to Grand Ledge to a new house that he'd fitted up. And of course, that's where he took my mother as a bride. I found it interesting that the 2 youngest boys, Fred and Will, Frederick and Willem, took middle initials. Frederick became Fred. He took Fred S. Kebler, and Willem became Will D. And the story that I heard about that was that they took a middle initial because they thought it was more American. Well, every family has stories, folk stories that fall down, and most families have artifacts, realia. Some of it they brought with them, I'm sure. But each one tells it. The material culture tells a story as well as the stories fall down. They're always the same, but they're always different. And this is a pewter tankard, and it has initials and it looks like the paddles that would have been used in a bakery. because he's listed as a Boer, a farmer, on the passport, but he was also a weaver and a baker. And you can see those are engraved.
Now, what would that have been used for?
I have no idea.
The cap comes off, though.
It's made of pewter. Oh, this is the declaration of the intent to become a citizen. The Christian signed this and certainly lost no time filling out this form in Lansing, Michigan.
Now, what does that form do? Did everyone that came to this country in that era have to fill out a form like this?
It says, I forswear the king of Wurtemberg. And in other words, he gave up his citizenship in Germany and applied for citizenship in Ingham County.
That's a pretty important piece for you.
Oh, it is. And I think it shows the degree of intention that they had to come to America.
Is that one of your more revered items that you have in the family?
Well, I think so, and I think the passport is very interesting because it tells us the name of the boat that they came on, the Belle, and when you think about, if you've ever been to some of the museums and seen those immigrant boats, they were so small. Yes, this is a crazy quilt. Yeah, this is the crazy quilt that my aunt Mary Kebler made, and has been passed down to the oldest girl in the family through the generations. And I recently had it restored because in the center is a red rose is painted, and in the original, wherever the paint was, it deteriorated. And so I found an artisan in Michigan who actually found antique paper that had a rose on it, and she restored it beautifully in the center of the quilt. It's put together with different styles of embroidery. Some of it's plain, and some of it is complicated crewel. There's baskets in the corner, or fans.
What's the earliest? I noticed there's some dates on there. What's the earliest date? Here's a 1893.
The 1880s. She made it in the 1880s. Every piece must have a story, but I never heard of it because my Aunt Augusta McFarland had this, gave it to my sister, and it wasn't until my sister passed that it came to me. But this one identifies it by place because it's a silk ribbon for Eagle Township, Eagle School number 1. And there's another ribbon that lists the names of the people that are printed on it in blue. Here's one of a beautiful lady. That must have been in the top of a gentleman's hat. Here is the date. $1893. So we've had it a long time.
Wow, I guess. That's very beautiful. Hundreds of pieces in there.
I wish we knew the names, the story of the pieces. You know, this must have been from a gentleman's hat. And maybe this was from a wedding dress, or, for a piece of velvet.